So I want to first take the opportunity to introduce everybody to the Reparations Task Force Community Engagement Committee. My name is Antonia Edwards. I am the chair. I have Ms. Lamerchi Frazier, and I also have Ms. Miriam Hammond on white on the other side. I want to also take the opportunity to thank the Equity Inclusion Cabinet, who basically works in conjunction with us to make this stuff happen. And today we're basically bringing the projects from the community to the community to show the input and the collaboration that we did with the community with their special projects. So the first person we're going to call is Jibril Haynes. He's with the Origin Nile Studios. Where's Jibril? Hey, how are you? You're going to go up first, hon. Okay, thank you so much. Yes, you are. Thank you for your patience, everybody.
Hello. How's it going, everybody?
Good evening.
Wonderful, wonderful. My name is Jibril Haynes. I am a film producer and director, a writer, screenwriter. I have been for the last 24 years. And as soon as I graduated, I started punching out like as much as I could. So I've been through the ringer when Blockbuster's been around, trying to get distribution deals through when physical DVDs were here, all the way through the digital age, through the streaming age, and it's been quite a ride. This particular film that I worked on, mostly I do narrative films, write a lot of stories in that format, but this particular documentary came about, it's called The Myth of Black Dads. And this particular documentary came about because there is a lot of myths of black fathers not being in their children's families, and brown people who have not been properly represented as being stand-up fathers. And so what I did was did some research, and I know that, even my father was in the Black Panther Party, and when I was 6, because of he was wanted, he had to step out, move all the way around the country, around the world, and there was a time in my life where he wasn't there for me, but I really didn't know at the time when I was growing up that why, and there's always a why. And so when I started doing some research behind this, I realized that it's not just an American problem. This is, or even American myth globally. I did some research out of France and parts of Africa where it's shown in the media that even French black fathers are not there for their families, and that's what they portray. So with that, I decided to just put a couple of interviews together and just do a little work. And it's all really fun and research for me to show an audience. So without, I guess, any further ado, this is what I put together. It's about a 20-minute piece, but I think we're going to show maybe about 15 minutes of it. It's called The Myth of Black Dads.
We have children that are growing up without their fathers in the home, and that is being incentivized by the government right now via the welfare system.
Tupac Shakur, the late rapper, once said, "I know for a fact that had I had a father, I have some discipline, I'd have more confidence." He admitted he began running with gangs because he wanted the things a father gives to a child.
How often is that black father, or father in general, reaching out, trying to get access to his kids, and because you're dealing with an ex-wife, girlfriend, mother of your child, fiance, who's now bitter and hostile and angry, who's going above and beyond to use that resentment to block access from the father getting to the child.
And this is not the black woman's problem, I want to be clear. This was systematically done to make us irrelevant to our families.
You need a man to teach you how to be a man.
So the absent or deadbeat black father myth that many in America believe is really more like...
There's a stereotype that African-American dads have, and that it's almost expected. Conversations with African-American children, they ask, is your dad anybody?
it's a shock if they are there. Like, it's a shock if, like, oh, your dad's in the home, or oh, you have two parents. So I think that's just the tone of society. It's just that, we're not around and we're absent.
When I hear that now, I don't feel like it affects me really, because I see fathers nowadays walking down the streets everywhere I go. So I believe that that's like not a thing anymore.
The stereotype. I grew up in an era where there was a common saying, either selling crack rock or you got a wicked jump shot. And I think that stereotype we've now tried to curtail to where that's not the only options anymore.
And as we all know, the stigma of fathers not being in the children's lives and stuff, I didn't have my father in my life. So I made a promise to myself, if I was to ever date a woman who had kids, that I would not let that stigma go, because you build a bond,
Just because the father is not in the household does not mean that he's an absentee father. Just because he's there not financially does not mean he is an absentee father.
This generation now, there are more fathers around. Growing up, I didn't have my father around. So I felt like that made me dedicated to making sure that I was there for every moment for my 5 kids.
Did the stereotype have some substance? A little bit. Some of us choose, we all have choices in life. Some of us choose to fit the mold. But then we have a lot of us, such as the gentleman that will be on this film, that we don't believe in that. We are chasing a different goal, and we're changing the stereotype through us, through our children, and hopefully our grandchildren.
That's the power.
For me, it's a little bit different as I grew up, because I grew up with both of my parents. They been married for 54 years. They actually retired about 14 years ago. They live in the Dominican Republic. So a lot of the struggles that I've been hearing, I didn't go through it. But me as a dad, I have my own struggles. Especially having 3 kids with 2 different females, is very challenging.
I grew up in Chicago, Illinois, where a lot of my friends and members of my community didn't really have a father figure around. I was fortunate enough to have a phenomenal father. So phenomenal that he was a father to me, and he also had enough to go around for the kids in my community.
That stereotype didn't apply to me because my dad was always there. He was very, loving, strong and disciplined, but, not in a bad way, trying to guide us the right way.
My dad, was always there. He's still there. Actually, I have a really good relationship with my dad and both of my parents.
My father was in and out. Funny, we have a different relationship because I wasn't born out of 2 people coming together and choosing to make a child. I wouldn't say I was a mistake, because God has his own ways, but it happened. My mom actually tried to do it her own way. I would say she was the beginning of the independent woman. I'm gonna have this child, I'm not gonna tell him, and I'm gonna do it my way. One day she ran into my dad, and he knew I was his son the moment he saw me.
In my case, of course, it's not a case of being absent, because I'm in my son's life. I'm in the home with him, and that's important too. I always made a vow, if I could, I didn't want to be a weekend dad. I didn't want to be a part-time father. I wanted to be there for everything, the good, the bad, the sick, the good health, the first steps, the first birthdays, even just everyday life. I'm amazed every day of just watching my son just grow and becoming the human being that he is.
The stereotype is society itself. Stereotype, not just black men, but all men live in the urban community as one typical type to to rob, steal, drop out of school, be no good. And not only that, our sisters also stereotype us that we're no good because white society has put a stomach in our society that we're no good, we're good for nothing. Where I was raised in the 60s and 70s, where I cook, clean, you mean, and wash full clothes and shopping.
I'm a 70s kid, so I grew up in the 80s, the 90s. I used to run the streets, do all that. I did it to the fullest. I changed. Why? Because I had kids. I wanted to be part of the solution and stop being part of the problem. I went to school. I got a lot of trades under my belt, electrical. I mean, nationally registered EMT right now as we speak. So I went from being part of the problem to being part of the solution. And that was also to show my kids that it's possible to change and be that role model figure.
My kids will never have that misguided information that I had to learn from older guys in the neighborhood. And I always make sure that they know the love of dad, and I'm gonna tell you the right thing to do. It may not be the thing you wanna hear, but it's always gonna be the right thing to do. And to make sure that if there's a pothole in front of you, you're not gonna step in it. My job is to tell you, hey, there's a hole right there, go around it. Even if I have to step in it, as your dad, you don't have to step in it.
That is one thing I am trying to teach my godson, that he is not just a pocketbook, that he is more than just that. He is his mind, body, and soul. He is the essence of what a man should and will be with the guidance of the men that is in his life.
I see the crystal raindrops fall, and the beauty of it all is when the sun comes shining through to make those rainbows in my mind. When I think of you sometime, and I want to spend some time with you, just the two of us. We can make it if we try, just the two of us.
So I have 3 stepkids. When I got with my baby's mother, you know, it comes as a package deal, and I accepted them. We was together for about 12 good years. So I raised them, so I consider them mine. So that's why I don't say stepkids, I say they're my kids. You know, that's what a real man do.
I got 4 boys and 1 girl, with all ages, 20, 17, 14, got a 9-year-old and a 7-year-old.
2 kids of my own, that's 39 and 37. I'm raising my 2 great nephews, who Justice is 9 years old and Josiah is 14.
I have 4 children. My first son, 20, he's my son, not my biological, but I raised him. And then I have 3, age 9, 6, and 8. So we got our hands full. It's a zoo every day, I call it.
I stepped in as a father because, unfortunately, my godson lost not just his father, but his mother. Both at 2 separate years. His father went first, and then his mother went 2 to 3 years later, all before first grade.
I'm a single father. I say that proudly because it took a lot for me to learn how to do this, you know, and I had nobody around to show me or to help me. So I had a 2-year-old feeding him with a spoon, and I had another baby in arm trying to warm up milk and feed him at the same time. So it was difficult, but I think by now I'm pretty good at it. I'm proud of myself in that way.
Your kid's not the first one to fail off the team or get an F. Your kid's not the first one to be undecided what they want to do with their life. Your kid is not the first one to be too spoiled and not have any idea where you came from. They're not the first. They won't be the last. All you can do is try to be the best man you can be.
How do you kind of sneak in to say that you love your son or your kids? You don't sneak them in. You just say, listen, I love you.
It could be the last time you get to say I love you. That would be my message to all dads. It could be the last time, the time you don't say I love you. That's the purpose I take in life. Treat it like it could be the last time.
the way that I just slip in and say I love you is either we'll make a handshake or like we'll do a TikTok dance with my daughter. You know, I just sneak in a love you. Or maybe before they go to bed, I just tell them that I love them.
Yeah, every time I have a chance. And every time I see them, yeah, mostly every time I have a chance to say it. It's very important to me to share that with them.
Sometimes you have to put yourselves in the child's perspective of needing a hug or needing someone to tell you, I love you, and remembering as you were a child of those feelings and of that mindset, what that felt when someone told you that they loved you, especially your dad or your mother. So dads who are just struggling to vocalize, I think you just kind of need to be a little empathetic and, you know, do it and be consistent with it.
You know, because kids at this age, they don't know subliminal messages. You know, they can't say, hey, you know, what did I just witness? My father whispered, I love you, or he kind of said it in a jokingly way. You know, I remember my father used to tell me he loves me all the time at 7, and I didn't know. I mean, I did. I guess I felt a little embarrassed because you have these roles like the men are supposed to be the strong, silent type, or you know, the mothers are supposed to do that. But as I get older, I just appreciated him just being honest and saying, "Hey, I love you." It means the world to you.
My son was diagnosed with autism at age 2, and I just remember feeling hopeless, not knowing what to do, what it meant, if there was a cure, which is a lot of people think it is. It's a lifelong thing, and it's a journey. But I just remember him being 2, not being able to talk, and him turning 3, not being able to talk. And then it started getting concerning. By the time he was 5, there was still no words, but he was smart. He knew what he wanted. He knew how to do certain things, and that would frustrate him to know what he wants but not be able to express it. And I can just remember us trying to figure it out. You know, we did sign language. Didn't work too well. Just little gestures we tried to do. Pictures. Didn't work too well. Tried to schedule everything out to where everything just made sense to how he needed to do it. It didn't work as well. And then I remember one day, me and Mom decided to ask the teacher. He was in love with technology. He was just excels at everything technology. And we found out that there was a way that he can have a communication tablet. And I can just remember day one, he was putting together full sentences. And it was like, I was the proudest moment of my life. And he can talk to me. And that was how his communication was.
We got a good thing, babe. Whenever life is hard, we'll never lose our way, 'cause we both know who we are. Who knows about tomorrow? We don't know what's in the stars. I just know I'll always follow the light in your heart.
I always explain to my wife that when she does certain things, people say she's a black woman handling her business, right? If she fails, it's because she didn't have, if she fails or she's struggling, it's because of I'm not good enough.
So I thank you for taking a look at this, these couple of images that I put together. You know, I'm usually writing a script, training actors, going for sets, take 1, take 2, editing, you know, putting stories together. But, you know, the power of the human story, I think, is something that I try to just touch on and be able to just listen to some people who really wanted to just pour their heart out about their experience as being fathers and their experience of having fathers. So, at the time when we was writing the editing process, the Reparations Committee gave me a couple of finishing funds, and I used it for the editing. So I really want to appreciate this committee for doing that and giving me a chance to show a piece of what we put together. Thank you very much.
Jabril, come back up. Thank you for the huge round of applause and allowing him to showcase his talents and also his lived experience and stories and uplifting fathers in our community. We have like 10 minutes to ask questions, and we wanted to move everybody along. And then Miss, Dorothea Clark, Dorothy Clark, she'll be coming up next, okay? Did you have any questions for Jabril? Anybody?
Yes, ma'am.
I'll come over.
Yes. Oh, you need a microphone? Okay, cool.
I don't have a question, but I have a comment. That was really awesome. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
I really loved it.
Thank you.
I would like to say thank you as well. And I have a question like,
Yes, ma'am.
how many hours did you put that together?
I was working with the Trotter Elementary School with another film that I was doing, and I'm really childhood friends with the principal of the Trotter, Sarita Thomas. And she decided, okay, Jabril, she knows I'm always flying around the world, shooting films here and there. And she said, well, Jibril, can you just spend about a week with some dads? And really what it took was me sitting down with them at least twice for them to tell their stories, because everybody's not ready to be on camera, and then number two, everyone's not willing to tell their story on camera. It's very, very vulnerable to certain people. So I think a lot of the time was them getting to know me and knowing that I'm not gonna glaze over what was the heart of their story. And let's say the heart of Jeff's story was, he had a son with autism, and he drops his kid off every day at school, and every day he's always getting back like a report that his kid is acting crazy in school. And for him to have to still hold his head up, give his son a hug every day, knowing that it's something going on mental in his child's brain, but he's so happy to see him every day. When I spent that week at that school, it was just like something to watch. And a lot of it didn't make camera because I wanted to have some privacy from what it was. So there was a lot that I captured that I just didn't want to put on camera. We kind of stayed with the interviews because you get into filming children and stuff like that. But I spent a good week and a half with them, ma'am. Yes.
Yeah, hi, my name is Cassie Quinlan, but the thing I wanted to say is, my God, it's so incredible how so many cliches go throughout the whole society and hang on forever.
Yes.
Like the absentee black father. I mean, that's just one of them. It's like somebody did sociology at a certain stage.
Yeah.
And things that get published at a certain time, and then everyone remembers them forever. And, people in the Midwest will come up with that same quote, and they never even met, every African-American or seen it. And the opposite of that is just, as you said, it's not just whether you're, first of all, nobody even seems to notice that in slave times, nobody was allowed to marry, for heaven's sakes.
Yes.
And so why do you hold anybody to that particular standard? People actually learn how to take care of each other without being married. And partly what you're saying, that basically a tenderness, that's what I found when I drove my school bus in busing. And the whole notion of mothering and care was completely different. The kids would get on my bus and they knew how to take care of their brothers and sisters. They knew how to iron their own clothes. They're just, and I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. I never saw, I'm a different culture. Anyway, just to say that, and also sometimes these horrific stereotypes, and when the saddest thing about them is that when somebody says them, especially people who don't know, they think this must be true because I've heard it before.
Yeah.
And it's astonishing. So I really appreciate the work that you did. Thank you.
Thank you. Like we have a pride about it. We're proud. Like when I was growing up, it was like in the 80s before I think I was even before teenagers, you would always hear someone saying like, that kid ain't mine, that kid ain't mine. But I think some type of switch happened. I don't know when it happened. I just don't know when it happened. But at some point in time, you would never heard that anymore. You would always hear fathers that I knew that were going to stick up for raising their children and trying to go above and beyond to raise their child. You know, I was with my child's mother for about 24 years, and we just didn't work anymore. And I was willing to pretty much die in this relationship. I was gonna die in this relationship. I didn't care. I didn't care how upset, I didn't care how unhappy I was. I was gonna stay there so I could see my sons every day. And I was willing to do that. I was dead set willing to do that. Until I realized kind of that, listen, I gotta be happy too. And it took me everything. It took me everything to just, remove myself from the situation, but stick so close. Because like I told you, my father ended up having to leave my situation when I was sick. And I held him kind of accountable for that, not really knowing all the things that was happening in the Panther Party and how deep he was in at the time. I held him accountable for that until like 2.5 years ago. So 2.5 years ago, I basically forgave my father for that. And then I was able to kind of move on, but I talk to my children every single day. I see them every 3 weeks. It's beautiful. I make sure that I'm not gonna be anything like that, what the stereotype is. So it was like a personal thing for me. Anybody else? Any other questions? Okay, all right. Well, thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate you guys taking the time out to watch this, and we will see you guys later. Follow my work.
Hello. Sounds to me like you can hear me okay. My name is Dorothy Clark, and I am co-president of the Greenough House in Jamaica Plain. Oh, thank you very much. And my co-president, Andrew Hatcher, is sitting here. We have been on the board of Greenough House for quite some time. I've lost count of how many years. The house is a very special place, particularly in the Jamaica Plain community. We always are scheduling activities and events to get people to come to the house, be it a history program, some sort of arts engagement, music programs. So we like sharing our house with the public. So I do invite you to come visit us, especially this summer when we start our Thursday on the Lawn program, which is every Thursday. Starts about 4 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock. And it's just a fun time where you can get dinner, hang out on the lawn, and relax. But for this particular event, we came together, we wanted to do something about, or for the whole discussion, the city's discussion about reparations and what to do with that. So we were fortunate enough to get a grant, so thank you very much for doing that. And we talked. What can we do? How can we get people to our house here, sit down, talk about issues? What do we exactly want to talk about? So we met on March 23rd. It was a Sunday afternoon, and we had a good group of people with us. First of all, we looked to history, and we had a co-presenter who's couldn't be here tonight because he's working and teaching. Christian Walks is his name. He is a PhD student at Harvard in the education department, and this is the sort of thing that he studies all the time, educating Black people, studying Black educators, digging deep into those issues that we need to teach ourselves about. So Christian was the lead for the most part, in this program. And we started, well, that's Christian right there. So we started with a couple of questions. First, we started with a couple of facts, actually, telling our participants that slavery was codified, the first colony in what would be America. Slavery was made law in Massachusetts, first place. And it was sort of the first place to abolish slavery. Notice how I'm wavering on that, because the state of Massachusetts didn't just come out and say, okay, no more slavery, this is done. Everyone back then seemed to be into gradual abolition, or gradually getting rid of the institution of slavery. And that was in 1783, and it was based on a ruling of the Massachusetts Supreme Judicial Court, where it looked at the Constitution that had been written a couple of years before. And the Constitution basically pointed out that everybody should be free. And it took the courts and some other people a while to realize that, and they kind of like, it was a light bulb going off for some people. So, but that, of course, was not really the end of slavery. That was not the end of discrimination. That was not the end of bondage. It was not the end of many ills. They kept going on. People found ways, or I should say colonizers found ways to get around enslaving people, holding them in some sort of bondage. So, in our discussion on March 23rd, we started with those two facts, and then the question, why, if slavery had been abolished, taken off the books in essence, in 1783, why are we still talking about its persistent effects? And sometimes it can be hard to know how to deal with those persistent effects, even difficult to recognize them, point them out, but they are there. And we're seeing kind of, let's say, a resurgence of that mentality, that kind of thinking. So one of the things that our moderator, our main moderator, Christian Walks, discussed with us was the word anti-Blackness. Kind of as opposed to racism. Now, a lot of people use the word racism. It does sum up a whole lot of social, political, legal ills that people of color must face, must deal with. Notice the term I used there, people of color. When you think in terms of anti-Blackness, rather than using the word racism, we're talking about a particular kind of discrimination, inequity that particularly affects Black people. So there's a whole lot of racism. Racism is very much like a catch-all phrase. Various people, lots of people, different ethnicities, colors, ethnic background, racial background experience racism, but racism has different levels. So we got into a discussion during our session about using the word anti-Blackness. And it was a very interesting discussion. It's a very powerful word. I think for some people it might even be a frightening word. Christian took us through some of the history of the word Black and how it has come to mean awful things. You've got Black male. You've got, in terms of, Black males and Black male, extorting money from people. Things that are called Black are typically bad, associated with the devil, associated with evil, associated with filth, uncleanliness. And then you've got that opposite, white, which is typically associated with purity, with goodness, with light. And these are words, definitions that they have been in our language, and they have been in communications in other languages for centuries. And will they ever really go away? How do we get them to go away? When we focus on anti-Blackness, we're talking about the specific discrimination that affects Black people. Yes, there is racism against Asians, people of other backgrounds, Latinos, all sorts of, but it's different when it comes to being Black. And it is based in this idea that, and it's an old idea, and it was once held to be scientifically true, that Black people were inferior, could never rise to the level of creativity or intelligence that the white race could. And so there we have this historical view of that which is Black. Now, we had an interesting discussion, kind of almost sort of heated at times, because one person pointed out, well, they felt that the word racism was far stronger than the word anti-Black. And so that became our really lively discussion of the day. And it was good. It got difficult at some moments, which these kinds of discussions are going to do. They're going to get difficult. They are not easy. They should not be easy. I think, well, they're easier for some people than they are for others. What makes them difficult? We haven't gotten to the heart of that yet. If we had had, several more sessions in order to speak about this, perhaps we would have gotten to that. But our main takeaway, or one of the main takeaways, was looking at racism as it affects African descended people, Black people, and then looking at all other racisms as being offshoots of that. Now, that is kind of one thing, I'm sure you've all heard of critical race theory. That is one thing that actually critical race theory does. Although haven't heard that term very much in the media these days. Thank heavens. Maybe they're going somewhere and studying what it actually is. But it is valid. And as a result of critical race theory coming into being in the early 1970s, developed by Black scholars, notably Derek Bell of Harvard, other groups that are discriminated against have come up with theirs, their crits, their criticisms, as we call them. So, focusing on our history, what the history of Black folks has looked like, is very important. Once we start trying to accommodate all other groups that are discriminated against, we kind of lose the view, the fact that Black people are lost in that. So keeping that focus on that, talking about reparations is. You have a question?
Ms. Dorothy, what I was going to say is I was going to open it up for questions if you don't mind.
Oh, sure.
I just want to know if anybody has a question, you can stand up at the mic over here, please. Thank you. And ask your question. Yes, thank you. Sorry about that, Ms. Dorothy.
Oh, no problem.
So my question is, I know it wasn't you presenting the material, but what did he learn the most from the residents at the Loring House? And then, like, what was the final, like, product? Like, not saying Black, not saying Negro, not saying the different levels of, you know, Blackness, I don't know, anti-Black.
Final takeaway, it was a great talk, and we need to have more of those. We need to bring more people together. One of the interesting things we saw was that, who's your audience? Who do you draw to these types of events? Who comes out for this? And, you know, we advertised pretty widely, but you can't engineer your audience. So it has to be people who are interested in the topic, who are interested in working out these issues that come. So definitely more conversation, because we don't talk together enough.
Very good. We have your next question here. Hi, Ms. Grace, how are you? Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening. I just want to say that when you were talking about Black, that the judge wears a black robe. Jesus was Black. The Black Madonna and Child is revered around the world, and more Black power to you.
Thank you for that.
Yes.
So can we please give Ms. Dorothy a round of applause for doing her presentation? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Dorothy. Blue Hill Scott, is it Beacon Hill Scholars are next? Hi, how are you?
Hello. My name is Crystal Rollins Jackson, and I am president of the Beacon Hill Scholars. I'm from Roxbury, and my family really instilled in me the importance of family. So I really thought I knew my family pretty well. But I started going to these meetings and workshops at the African Meeting House on Beacon Hill. And there was somebody there who was doing some research, and she said, well, I'm researching your family. And I was like, my family? So it turned out that I have family on Beacon Hill who were Black abolitionists. And that started my, interest in knowing more about where I come from and who my family is. And so out of that evolved, first it was the History Nuts, and then it turned into Beacon Hill Scholars. And many of the people who were members of that were people who actually lived on Beacon Hill and were very interested in who was living in their houses. So we like to think about talking about Black abolitionists and their white allies, because it was more of a collaborative way of being. And they worked very hard together to end slavery. So I can't see my notes, so I'm going to just add a little more. So the founder of this was Horace Seldon. He passed away in 2017. He was an activist, historian. He started Community Change, which teaches white people about their racism. He was ahead of his time. And so you can go to the next slide. This is just a short clip of a film that we did with Michael King.
Welcome to Abolition Acre. And we were standing approximately where the present walk that we take comes to City Hall Plaza. And that's close to where David Walker had been in his on Bradley Street. And I said, abolition? David Walker? And what about Mariah Stewart? And what about my friend William Lloyd Garrison? And I said, we could do the three of them and make that a feature of what I would call Abolition Acre.
So this was just a snippet of a 17-minute film that we worked with Michael King to create this. Marilyn Richardson, who's a scholar on Mariah Stewart, and former Representative Byron Rushing is also featured in this film. But it's not really about the film. I just wanted you to get a sense of Horace and his determination of teaching people about this small area where there were so many Black activists working to end slavery. And so we knew that we couldn't capture his energy because it was endless. So we decided to create a walking tour, and we've been working on this for several years. And so we just have been coming to some dead ends. And so now we decided that we would create a virtual tour. You could actually do the physical tour, but it's in audio. And it will be housed on our website. And this is just the page of the website. It's not published yet. We've been working on it for not several years, but a few years now, gathering the information, and we want to make it a resource. I think it's so important, considering what's going on these days about information and who gets the information and how you distribute the information. So this is the perspective of the Black abolitionists, and focusing on their story as well as the history of slavery. And there'll be a timeline and this virtual tour. You can go to the next slide. And so this is the tour where you can either click on directions and get an actual script and walk the tour, or you can click on the map and see all the spots where you can go to, or you can listen to the audio. And next slide. And so there are 10 stops. This is the first 5. And we were very happy that we got money so that we could hire a sound engineer. So we don't actually have the finished product yet. It's with the sound engineer. And so there's a clip or audio clip that could you play that for stop 3?
You.
Oop. That's 7, but that's okay. You can play that one first. It doesn't really matter. This one is...
Mariah Stewart is a trailblazer. She is believed to be the first Black American woman to lecture in public about women's rights, especially Black women's rights, and against slavery.
She is also the first U.S.-born woman to address racially mixed audiences of women and men, something considered scandalous, even blasphemous at the time.
Such is the horrible idea that I entertain respecting a life of servitude, that if I conceived of there being no possibility of my rising above the condition of servant, I would gladly hail death as a welcome messenger.
Appeal to the colored citizens of the world.
Walker first publishes his appeal in Boston in 1829. It is an impassioned cry to Black people to resist slavery, to educate themselves, and to unite against oppression.
If you are anxious to ascertain who I am, know the world, that I am one of the oppressed, degraded, and wretched sons of Africa, rendered so by the avaricious and unmerciful among the whites. If any wish to plunge me into the wretched incapacity of a slave, or murder me for the truth, know ye that I am in the hand of God and at your disposal. I count my life not dear unto me, but I am ready to be offered at any moment. For what is the use of living when in fact I am dead? But remember, Americans, that as miserable, wretched, degraded, and abject as you have made us in proceeding, and in this generation to support you and your families, that some of you on the continent of America will yet curse the day that you ever were born.
So that was an excerpt from David Walker's appeal. And so I don't really have too much more to say. We should have this finished and posted on our newly launched website, I think by the end of May. And so I hope that you'll look forward and you'll take the tour and you'll look through our website and just enjoy the information that's available to us.
Thank you. Can we give her a huge round of applause? Does anybody have any questions for Blue Hill Scholars? Any questions? You want to step up to the mic? Okay.
Is somebody, I didn't hear.
I was asking if anybody had any questions for you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, for Q&A. Thank you so much for presenting your project. We really appreciate it. Next is ADOS, American Descendants of Slavery. We have Mr. Reggie Stewart, who's presenting. Okay, I'm sorry. But do you want to, we can ask her at the end. Yeah, we have a Q&A at, yeah.
Just when you launch your website, how will we know? Where are you going to advertise it?
Well, one thing we could commit to is if we know, we can announce it at this meeting. So maybe if you can get that information to us, we can announce it here and put it on the website before the June meeting.
Yeah, so send an email to the Reparations Task Force and we can update your community partnership project on the page. We can let people know. Thank you so much.
Good evening, everyone. How are you doing? My name is Reggie Stewart, and tonight I'm coming to you in my capacity as the former state coordinator for the Massachusetts chapter of the ADOS Advocacy Foundation. I know people who know me nowadays know that I wear a lot of hats, but this is the only hat that I am wearing tonight. All right. Let's see if our clicker's working. All right, these are our partners. We had an informational and listening session on reparations on October 26th of last year. That is the mission statement for the fiscal sponsor of the event, the ADOS Empowerment Project. You can find us at adosempowerment.org. This is the mission statement of the ADOS Advocacy Foundation. I won't read that all today, but you can find that on the website adosfoundation.org. These are the different focus points of the ADOSAF Black Agenda. Again, you can find that on adosfoundation.org. This is the mission statement of the Massachusetts State Chapter, and this is our, let's see, these are the focus points of our Black Agenda, dealing with wealth, income, home ownership, lending discrimination, renting discrimination, housing insecurity, Black entrepreneurship, and Black employment. And again, this is where you can find more information on these organizations, adosfoundation.org and adosfoundation.org/MA, and this is where you can find us on social media. At our session, we talked about definitions and timelines of reparations and how we anchored that discussion. We asked the question, what is reparations within the context of the United States of America? And we went through a timeline of litigation, policy, and advocacy from the period of slavery all the way up to the legalized end of Jim Crow vis-a-vis the Fair Housing Act of 1968. These are the different points in history that we covered. This is another one of them, again, all the way going up to 1968. We discussed modern reparations legislation. Of course, the late great Senator Bill Owens, whose legislation here in the state of Massachusetts, the first of its kind, led to what we now know to be H.R. 40. And we have the late great John Conyers, who ushered that in, who ushered it in every single congressional session until he left office. And then the late great Sheila Jackson Lee picked up the torch and introduced that until her passing, and now our honorable Congresswoman from the 7th District, Diana Presley, has picked up the torch. And this is the ordinance that is the reason why we are all here today. And this is more, as far as modern legislation, this is Senator Liz Miranda, who sponsored a bill for reparations, as did State Representative Brandy Fluker Oakley, now Brandy Fluker Reed. And they're at it again with this session, so be sure to call your state rep and state senator to move this issue forward. And we were visited by our great District 7 counselor, Tanya Fernandez Anderson. And for the record, Counselor Anderson, ADOS still loves you and supports you. We talked about October 1989, the Charles Stewart incident. We talked about the Bennett family, who Boston apologized to, but has yet to make whole. And we covered Joseph Bennett's organization helping young men and other returning citizens help get a fresh start. I just saw him the other day, he's still working. We talked about the elephants in the room regarding the reparations debate. And of course, the first one is, what in the hell is ADOS and how did we get here? That's top of mind for many. We dealt with one of the co-founders, Yvette Carnell, who was here for the session and gave remarks. And she began a discussion in 2010 around lineage and identity. The other co-founder, Antonio Moore, focused in on wealth inequality in a way that hasn't really been explained before, especially in the context of the consequence of slavery and the calcification of wealth, especially from 2000 until the present day. And what we also talked about was the origins of this movement online, where we had a discussion about hookworms in the South, and we found out who represents that district. And once we found out where she was, ADOS had a lot to say. So we go on. We just keep going until she says, I yield. I call on Speaker Ryan to work with the Dems on an infrastructure package that addresses the crisis we are facing and references the story that Yvette had covered on her show earlier. Really shows you what happens when people organize. And speaking of organization, we covered the Angela Project 2017, 18, and 19, where both Yvette and Antonio organized clergy, leaders, politicians from around the country, and especially parts of the Baptist Convention, which had membership in the millions, to speak on wealth equality and eventually in 2019 reparations. So when you see the way that ADOS exploded, that's the origin story. And again, when we are talking about wealth inequality and policy and the importance of lineage, and we see these two figures here who gave us policies like this, and in actions like this, and they try to trigger you in terms of your identity with displays like this. Of course, with ADOS in the room, the answer is going to be, nope, not doing it. And so what we saw with Representative Sewell in Alabama plays out again, because this was happening. You had ADOS, a political movement for reparations, birthed out of and anchored in a unique and specific understanding of lineage and identity in the United States, wealth inequality, and the urgent need for targeted policy. And this comes right around when her first attempt plummeted. You see a spike in reparations conversation around 2019 as we get to the third Angela Project and activism online. There is a correlation here, despite what the party higher-ups may tell you. So when she pokes her head out, same thing happens. Not doing it, not doing it, not doing it. It's ADOS. So that's how we got here. We also dealt with the party and their media machine's inability to accept what was happening or understand what was happening. So they say these are Russian bots. And we have other people like Harvard try to pick up that torch, anchored in a misunderstanding that others tried to promulgate, but they're kind of quiet now. Slavery Reparations Advocacy Group files defamation lawsuit against Harvard. And so if you go online and you look for the people that had those things to say, and even Harvard and people like MoveOn.org and some of the other people connected to that, they're all quiet now. But the overall message that ADOS brings to the table is that I don't work for you. I don't work for the Democrats. I don't work for the Republicans. I don't work for outside foreign actors. I don't work for philanthropy. We work for the people. And so we go to what form should reparations take? And we revisit the timeline. But within that discussion of the timeline, we noticed a pattern that throughout, from slavery all the way up till the end, the so-called end of Jim Crow in '68, we have monetary compensation referenced 10 times, land referenced 5, and other forms of redress referenced 3 times. And so the conclusion is that direct payments are the most materially significant part of any reparations program. And yes, reparations goes beyond a check. It can take many forms, but without that transfer of wealth, you cannot call it reparations within the context of the United States. And we went over our reparations framework from the ADOS Advocacy Foundation, talked about what we're asking for reparations for. No more of the things that we're asking for, and these are the 5 essentials of repair: administrative, financial, land, education, and mental health. We went on to who would be eligible for reparations, and we see all of other beautiful Black people who are newly arrived, so naturally the question becomes, what about them? But we have to keep that in the context of when slavery began and so-called ended, and when most of our brothers and sisters from the diaspora arrived. And so this is where we find the international framework useful, because if you weren't here for slavery and there's no stolen wealth to repay within the United States, or compensation or rehabilitation or satisfaction, but you can stop what you're doing to those newly arrived. You can stop harassing them if you're the police. You can stop following them in the store. You can stop renting discrimination. You can stop lending discrimination. You can stop unequal treatment of our children in schools. So that's where we do that. And all of that, I'm not going to read all of that, but pretty much the ancillary benefits, especially in terms of compensation, would be felt immediately once that transfer of wealth hits the descendant community. Said differently, if the wealth gap closes for me today, I'm coming for all the roti, I'm coming for all the chicharron. For my Cape Verdeans, I'm heading straight to Caesarea, so that wealth is going to make its way around. We also discussed racialized tax taking. This is James Saucer Jr. This is some of all that he owned. And it was taken through tax foreclosures, through urban renewal. Some of you may recognize that street. And his children are still here. And what's tragic about this is that this very same property that was stolen by the city is now being presented to the people of Boston as a fix for the racial wealth gap. So you steal land from Black people and sell it back to developers and say, here is your redress. Insane. And so what we concluded is that in the same way that Boston Mayor Bigelow in 1851 upheld the institution of slavery by enforcing the Fugitive Slave Act. In a similar way, our current mayor upholds the vestiges through her housing policy. We also had a special panel of oral histories of urban renewal where we heard from former State Senator Diane Wilkerson and members of the Sarcer family and some other folks. And here we were in July 2023 asking for a pause on this land giveaway. And again, in 2024, we're asking, yet we are met with silence. The whole time the mayor says, here's how we close the racial wealth gap. But in terms of closing the racial wealth gap, assuming this is the approximate number of African-American households in the city, to close the wealth gap would be a little over $14 billion. Only problem is that's 3 times Boston's operating budget. So obviously it's not very feasible that Boston would be able to come up with those funds in enough time that we need. But I know someone who does, and that's where we should, have our focus. But that doesn't mean that there should not be a response to this, because there is something that Boston can do to ameliorate the vestiges of slavery. And this is how you can get involved, and this is how you can fund the ADOS reparations bill. And I'll take questions at this time.
So give Reggie a huge round of applause for the ADOS application. If anybody has any questions, please step to the microphone. Please step to the microphone if you have questions, please. Thank you.
What's up, brother?
How you doing?
I'm good. You know, when you started talking about the urban renewal, you're talking my language. So I was going to just, not really a question, but the urban renewal, you might hurt me. Thank you. All right, thank you. It is actually a federal issue. The I-95 and I-695 that caused the urban renewal were federal projects. 95% of it was paid by the federal government with a 5% match by the city of Boston. So I just wanted to give you that clarity on that issue.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it was a federal program, but the city complied, and the city owns some of that land that was taken. So we can certainly do have an inventory and a study on that, and through the housing policy within the power of the city, they can address some of that. But you're absolutely right. The grand scheme and the grand fix is absolutely federal, and I appreciate you for pointing that out.
No, and I agree with you, but I'm just trying to say that even if you want to look at it as far as like this was the project that was done, like I think the city of Boston paid $75,000 for all the destruction, West End, and everything. So I'm just trying to say that we're not going to let the city off the hook. Trust me, I know. But I'm just saying that the overarching issue, and because of the size of the problem and the money that's required in order to solve the problem, it can only be solved, like you said, by federal.
Absolutely, because I'm pretty sure the houses and businesses that were destroyed exceed that $14 billion that it takes to close the wealth gap. Appreciate you, brother.
Next person, please.
Say it loud, I'm black and proud. I have questions. I wanted to know, one, your presentation, does it just based on housing? And I wanted to say, in your presentation, our people, first of all, that the black community in Boston, from Roxbury into Dorchester, was a thriving black community I grew up in as a child. We had black businesses and black stores. So just like Tulsa, the black community was destroyed. And right now, 60,000 black people have left the city of Boston. I want to make that point, and I want to link that point to Black people in the city of Boston also filed to incorporate our Black community as a separate city from Boston. So I want to make that point that needs to be addressed. And I also want to say that the harms done to Black people in the city in terms of the destruction of the Black family has to be addressed, and the destruction of Black males in the city and Black fathers. The city of Boston removed trades out of all the junior high schools. As a result, Black males are the only Black males in the world today without trades, without the ability to feed their families and feed and clothe their children. So that is that needs to be addressed. Also, crack and guns were dropped in our community. The amount of Black children that was stolen from their families and placed in foster care parent, we cannot overlook the destruction of the Black family as the worst horrible Holocaust in the world. I'm sorry to say, yes.
Absolutely. Well, to answer your question of why housing, while we did cover the history of reparations advocacy, we went all the way back to Belinda Sutton's petition, and we ended with the Fair Housing Act of '68. But when we got to the housing discussion, it really seemed to energize the audience. So that's kind of where it kind of led, and it kind of seems that this is something that Black people in Boston really, really want to deal with. Well, we want to cover slavery, but as the brother pointed out earlier, a lot of these projects and policies were federal, but for a lot of people it's personal, because a whole lot of the children of the people whose homes and businesses were, those children are still here, and even some of the people who own those businesses and homes are still here. So they want to fix for that today.
Yes. So housing has to do with the family, because the families live in the houses as well. So the family also needs to be included. But I really appreciate all the work that you did. It is phenomenal. I'm not criticizing your work. I'm just I'm just urging that we also need to focus on the destruction of the Black family, because we need to rebuild the Black community. So I just want to mention that. And I also want to say, God bless the Gus Scott family, because they owned this property that the city of Boston took by eminent domain. So the city of Boston took this building from a Black family, the Gus Scott family, and then they turned around and named it after our famous city councilor, Bruce Bolin. Big up to Bruce Bolin and the Gus Scott family. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I just want to make a quick statement. We started late, and I'm going to make concessions for that, but we have one more presentation. Okay, so I just want to make sure that you guys have a specific question.
I'll be quick.
Yes, thank you so much.
I want to know this, first of all, the research that you've done, is that on the website?
I guess we could request that the task force, if they want to put these slides up, feel free. And there's also I submitted to the city a recording of the entire listening session. And again, if the task force and the city see fit, they're absolutely free to publish that. And if y'all wouldn't mind publishing that, so that the people can access all the research is there.
The other thing was that when I was a grad student at BU, I was part of the African American students who did research over this urban renewal, and that never got back what we wrote up. Because we went around and interviewed people who were in the process of being displaced. That work didn't get to the city, although it got to BU.
Okay,
Do
so
you,
can I-
do you, do you still have it?
No.
Oh.
So can
but
I make a
I'd love
statement?
to see it.
Everybody who is a community partner has a contract with the city of Boston and was paid a grant or either received a contract from them to perform services. The city of Boston owns the property and will be using it and us making our recommendations for reparations. And that was the whole purpose of us being able to engage with the community and having them do the project so they could have input on our recommendations. So they will be showcased. We just didn't want to showcase them before they did the presentations. So, she asked a question. I just want to go to the next person. Did you have a question real quick, or did you have a statement?
I have a statement.
Okay, can you wait to the end for the statement so that we can let Marlon go?
Yeah.
I'm going to give like maybe 5 minutes for people to make statements at the end, if you don't mind.
It's just related to what he was talking about.
Is it a question or a statement?
It's a statement related to what he was talking about.
So we can have community statements. It's just that we want to make sure that each presenter was supposed to get 15 minutes, and we are now at 20. That's
Okay.
fine. But we want to make sure that this gentleman does his presentation, and then people who want to stay can stay. But then we will have at least gotten all of our presenters followed through on what we told them in terms of when they get to present. Does that make sense?
Yeah, we're all good?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Reggie. Thank you. So this is Mr. Marlon Solomon. He is from the Afro-American
Afrimerican.
Cultural Initiative.
Can I take this off? I don't want to be trapped behind the podium. All right. Well, how's everybody doing? We're not going to sit here in this dark. Y'all might fall asleep. I need y'all to stay awake. All right. Anyway, so I can introduce myself until they hook it up. So my name is Marlon Solomon. I am the founder and senior project engineer at the Afrimerican Culture Initiative. We are a Boston-based nonprofit. We do work in cultural engineering of like spaces like hubs, right? Cultural hubs. So like an African-American Chinatown, so to speak, right? Oh, you need my pin. All right, hold on. No, I'm black and I'm proud. All right, actually, it will respond to my face, but all right. There we go. All right. So like I said, yes, I'm a senior, I'm an engineer, I'm a civil engineer. My work primarily has to do with restorative project management, which is a field of study that we are working on independently. We don't have nobody, we are the organization. This is an African-American organization. And so restorative project management is about building community through infrastructure development and looking at, so basically we are working on projects in our community that actually are doing reparational work now. We are not waiting for anybody. There's no need to wait for anybody. We do projects that involve low-tech, very inexpensive solutions in order to achieve the goals that we're looking for. So the first thing that I wanted to just really talk about, so what I always start my talks off with, what don't we know that we should know? All right? They've been erasing history for as long as we've been here, right? And that question means that there are things that have been erased from our cultural memory that we may not know how to enact, right? Not saying because we're not trying, not because of anything, but just because of certain information gets lost in the time, all right? So when we think about the cultural erasure that is happening in our communities, remember, what's the saying? If you don't know where you're coming from, you don't know where you're going, right? So I was very pleased to hear about the Mandela City. I find that piece of Boston history to be tremendous, all right? Because that is an expression of African Americans wanting the number one cultural artifact, which is land. A place to practice, a place to be, a place to grow, right? A place to have family. And when this happened, and I guess it didn't work out, but to me it says we want to be free. We want our own spaces, all right? Now, how can we articulate what was erased? It's quite difficult, right? Because in the end of the day, You only know what you know. All right? People have been trying to erase our history for over about 300-400 years, right? Why do they continue today? Because they've been successful. And they're just going to continue doing it because they know if you don't know where you're going, you can't know. If you don't know where you're coming from, you can't know where you're going. So they're not going to let you know where you're coming from. So, but we have Dr. Maluna Karenga that went in 1966, created a cultural development, right? He started something. He went to Africa and he gave his first impression of what he saw and realized that there was cultural voids that were happening in his place with his people, with things that have been lost into time and memory. Because we were black before we got here on these shores. We had family and community and empires before we got here, all right? So what we do is a little bit like Kwanzaa 2.0, all right? We do deep research on cultural development using artifacts and things that are handed down intergenerationally. So now, I'm an engineer, so they couldn't put me in front of people, and I'm not going to show you some maps. So this is the 1938 Boston Red Line map, and this is where we are right in here, all right? Now, this map combined with this little sea ray thing, that sea ray thing is the plantation, y'all. That was the area created by the Boston Bank Urban Renewal Group in order to keep us in a certain location. They now took up all the trolleys and all the transportation to that area so we would be isolated. And it started when they removed in 1987 the Orange Line from right here and moved it to Roxbury Crossing, bypassing all the communities down here and down Washington Street, right? So this is the current 2025 City of Boston displacement map. This was released last month, May 19th. Okay, so this is as good as data. Now I want you to look at something. Look at this and look at this. And East Boston has the highest amount of displacement, 97% of displacement. Now why am I bringing this up? Because to me, and to all the work that I'm doing and all the data that's coming in, all right, the number one issue about reparations is we can't have any more displacement. In Boston, in the city of Boston, going back to 1700s to 1850, we moved from the north end to the west end. In 1910, or 1910, we moved from the west end to Roxbury. 60 years later, in the urban renewal, that got knocked down. Then we got put in that little sea ray, which is down here. And you can see it spreading all the way down here. All right? Now, they're about to put White Stadium in. They're going to put millions of dollars of investment into a place that has been disinvested for over 60 years. What do you think is going to happen? Especially around the largest landmark, a golf course, a zoo, lovely green spaces. All those buildings around there are the same as Boston Common. And the Boston Red Line map shows that they had the same amount of money. So, if you put White Stadium there, oh, and you remember there's a little bus lane around Columbus Ave, right? Where does it stop? It stops right in front of White Stadium. They're connecting the Orange Line to there, and they're not done there. They're also connecting with the new Blue Hill Ave. Y'all know that Blue Hill Ave? They're connecting Blue Hill Ave directly to, you named it, White Stadium. So that when you're coming from wherever you're coming from to go to the concerts, to go to the, I don't know, the soccer state, yeah, the soccer. You want to watch some soccer? And when you want to watch the soccer, you got to go through this, and they want to make sure that there's a clean path for you to get there. But what's going to happen is that this place is going to be completely too high for people to rent, and the rent's going to go quick because the place is actually supposed to be rich. Now, I wanted to show you our cultural hub. This is, I'm now showing you a picture of aerial photo of this area back in, I think, the 50s, before the place got knocked down. This is where techno-vocational school is. Well, this is where the school is. Oops. This is where the school is, but this is the field. This is where the last house on Oakburn Ave was. Anybody remember that? Right. Okay. So this is Vernon Street, right? Used to connect right from here, right by that Foot Locker, all the way to Tremont. All right. So this is the hub. There are businesses. I mean, I'm not going to pretend to know tell you what you guys already know. But this is the cultural hub. This was an African-American version of Chinatown. Okay, we're talking about jazz clubs, businesses, you name it, it's in this community. The police station, there was a dentist there, black dentist. Now remember, what would have happened if those people had been allowed to stay for the last 60 years, developing like everybody else? We wouldn't need no damn reparations. And we wouldn't have to beg anybody for it either. So, what did we do? We did an event, so I'm trying to find history. So how do? I create events. We invite a lot of people to the events, and we get stories, because guess what? If you're looking for cultural memory, you gotta have somebody that was there to remember it. So a lot of my friends, they're what I call seasoned citizens, and that's from my, oh, and I didn't say this. I'm half African American. My mother's from the great state of Commonwealth of Virginia, and my dad's Nigerian. So I grew kind of an African American. I grew up in Africa. And the thing we do in Africa, we train our kids to attack the knowledge in our seniors. And I'm not playing with that. I'm not like, we teach them to investigate and crack, because guess what? In Africa, there was no written language. So it's only oral. So that means that when I see my senior, I'm going, I need to get that information. So what I do, I bring people together in community. You know, we have Councilor Julia Mejia there, and Reverend Kelly, who is in the civil rights movement. This is my main man, Lou Finfer. My guy, this guy is a freedom writer, like no doubt. And then we have Ebony Gill bringing in the young Boston Urban Archives. But among from that, we now take that information that we get from these informational sessions, and we have the Afrimerican Academy, which is a summer program that teaches young people the African American history and turns them into tour guides. We have tours. We have to take this history and we have to make money from it. I'm not sitting here waiting for no damn reparations. All right? So what do? I get we have New Guinea Joy. That's North End and West End. Once upon a time in Nubian Square. The roadmap to a beloved community, which is the kind of joint lives of the African Americans and Jewish communities that did live in unison and were separated and pitted against each other by redlining and urban renewal. Now, we teach our kids how to be advocates, because you know these days you got to be on social media, even if you're doing the tour guides. We're bringing people into our community to spend money, all right, and to go to our restaurants and to learn the history of our people on our land. I also do a lot of digital storytelling. I'm releasing our two-part documentary in Juneteenth about, and that's Reverend Chauncey Moore. He'll give you a good story about uppity black folks in Roxbury back in the day. He's 100-year-old. He's a 100-year-old Roxbury resident, lives right there on Charlotte. Miss Helen Guilford, that's the Coast Cafe. If you know anything about Boston, Riverside Coast community, 70% African American back in the day, all right? So we're talking about, I'm getting history. These, Eva and Walter Clark, they were the two siblings, and they're the children of the Clarks that lived on the last house on Oakburn Ave. And for those who don't know, when they leveled the whole place, they owned their home, so they couldn't level their house without negotiation. And let's just say Mama was a bit stubborn. She wasn't trying to sell nothing, right? So that's a little bit about that. But now I want to talk about the program that we do, one of the projects that is near and dear to my heart. Like I said, I'm bicultural, and this program is the first program I ever did with the Afrimerican Academy. We give away a free DNA test to African Americans in Boston every year, right? And this is not the 23andMe. We go to an African American company called African Ancestry. They'll tell you your tribe, and they'll tell you you're not, because you have to understand, Africa, those countries are fake news too, all right? That was only 100 years ago. So, I mean, what is it? Nigeria, that's why when they tell you the 23andMe, they give you 2% this and 0.5% that. You can go to blazes with all that, because we want to know the tribe. When we get the tribe, we even connect you with people from that tribe in this country now until you can talk to them, because we're still oral tradition people, and we should never let anybody forget it. So we have a mission statement here. I'm not going to go over it, but our mission is to establish cultural rights and reparations for African Americans through reconnection, education, and repair of systemic cultural erasure. So we study things that I'm telling you, Tufts and Northeastern not even looking at. How many of us, how young, okay, if you were under the age of 10, when your parents give you the talk and about racism and African American, about being an African American, you found out they say, you black little boy, you better watch your step. How you can raise your hand. If you were told under the age of 10, you were given the talk, or if you've given your children under the age of 10, whether they're black, for their safety. That's the data I want, and that's the data I need from y'all to help me contribute so I can continue to develop curriculum. Say, why is that important? I used to teach at Boston Day and Evening Academy, all right, just down the street, and you would be surprised how they try to teach our kids that are coming from tough environments that have already been told to talk, and they're talking to them like they're little kids, like, hey, little boy, I know you're screaming at me, but I'm like, you better talk to that boy like he got some sense. They're crippling our kids because they're scared to tell them to sit their butts down and listen. They want to be, these poor kids, like they're coming and giving, kids in Africa handouts. So anyway, reparations, services, and advocacy. I do believe that every African American is deserved by reparations to have a trip to Africa or at least a black country. You cannot understand how it feels unless you are in the majority. And that's why I do advocate for African Americans in particular, because let me tell you what, while my other brothers and sisters from the Caribbean, I love them to death, but you know what? You had your land. Let me say that again. You had your land. We are on African American cultural land right as we speak. And as I'm talking to you right now, the land is a turf. So we also believe in education. We talk about we need to increase the food and the amount of cooking skills we have in our communities. So we can, we keep on talking like it's just, give people food. We need the recipes. Those are what was lost. Y'all should chase my jollof rice. Honestly, you don't know what you're missing. All right? Then diaspora and global unity. And, okay, I don't want to go over everything, but because I know I'm running out of time. How am I doing for time? All right, 2 minutes. Oh, I got more. Okay, hold on. So now the Great Escape, I don't call it the Great Escape. All right? I don't call it the Great Migration. All right? That's a bunch of BS. Who cares where we were going? It's what we were running from. All right? And that's the issue. If you hear these things, you have to turn those narratives off, because to sit here and say that we're running towards a greater life in the North when we were running from lynchings. We were tired of seeing bodies hanging from trees. And guess what? When we left, they were trying to call us back. They were trying to get us back. It's not like they just let us go. What kind of migration is that? All right? So we need to connect ourselves to our Southern roots as well. It's very important for this story. So these are some pictures that we've been doing this project for about 7 years. Like I said, 2018. These are some of the winners. This is these two young ladies tested positive for Bamileke of Cameroon. And then this is their culture guide, who actually took them out and gave them something to eat from their culture and stuff and cooked. They had time with their family. So these are real projects, all right? These are our winners. Michelle, she couldn't be here today. Shireen, Jessica, Stacy. So every year, Melanie, Giovanni, and Winston. And then we have a couple of people here, and in fact, our own dear Antonia. We have some people here, Gabrielle and Samantha. Hey, y'all. And Justina, sorry. All right, my bad. And they are here because they're in the new competition that we're doing to give away. We're going to give it away in Juneteenth. So you can please copy this QR code. They're looking for a donation because we want to give all of them DNA tests. And that's a new format we're doing, and start this level of discovery for them. So without further ado, I hope you enjoyed what we had to say today. But remember, y'all, this is African American engineering. You cannot sit and expect people to design places for you, all right? Now, let me tell you something. People that cannot dance, listen to me very well, oh. Let me bring my Nigerian accent so you can understand the words I'm saying, all right? Now, I'm telling you, people that cannot dance will not build dance floors in your community. People that have no seasoning in their food are going to give you those little tiny cabinets to put your seasonings in. Then my mama got cabinets seasoning halfway across the whole room. Because they didn't design it for your amount of seasonings. They designed it for salt and pepper, a little butter. I'm killing myself. So please, support our organization. All right? Y'all stop laughing over here. You're making me look bad. But, but for real, we have a real work to do. And this is reparations you can get involved with now. You don't have to wait for the report to come out. We're already working. I'm training my work staff this year. I'm already training young people to be tour guides this year. Not next year, not 2 years, not 5 years. When is the reparations going to come out? Anybody want to guess? We can put some wager on it. 10 years? Okay, who thinks it's going to be 10 years? 15 years? Okay, 15 years we get reparations. We got 2 going once. 20 years? You see, look at this. I'm not even going to go far. I'm going to start crying if I have to say 50 years before everybody put their hands up. And the research, so we got to do this now. We can't wait for anybody. Okay? You can see what's going on. So thank you very much for your time. And I'll take any questions.
Give Marlon a huge round of applause. I just want to make an announcement.
Thank you.
We're going to do the Q&A for Marlon. I'm allowing it to go into 8:30 because actually we didn't start until 6:30. I have 3 announcements to make real quick.
No problem.
Just ask him his questions and let's keep it rolling.
For your cultural connections,
Yes.
are you doing tours back to the native land?
You mean Native American culture?
No, from.
Oh, no, to
here
Africa?
to
Well,
yes.
no, thank you.
Ghana, Nigeria, Cameroon.
Right. Well, we have to crawl before we can walk. So we're going to start with Roxbury first. And then we're going to do Boston. The Boston Trail of Tears, I call it, though. Of course, I do want to open up our headquarters in Ghana. Because of, as you know, the Black Star has to do with Marcus Garvey, and they truly recognize African American culture is the only real country that really does that. They have a right to return. But where are you going to get that information, right? So we need to let people know that this is accessible, right? And we need to create the infrastructure to educate people so they know, okay, you can go back to Africa. Because the first thing is that I don't know nobody in Africa. Because I don't know nobody in China either, so I'm not moving there, right? So we need, but there are reconnection services, right? Even buying a home, right? Things like that. Because you'll be surprised at the big property you'll buy in Africa with the money you're making here. If you want to retire, right, you can go join WB, right? And these are the things that we believe are part of this reparation. Y'all, please, it's more than just a check. If you're looking for the pursuit of happiness, like I said, if you've never experienced it, you can't really understand it, right? How can you articulate something you've never experienced? Like me trying to tell any of my beautiful mothers in the house today that, I know I've read a book about, giving birth. It can't happen.
So,
Sit your butt down, Marlon.
This lady right here was
go ahead.
before to speak, and this lady right here was going to ask a question.
Oh, we will.
Now?
Yeah, go ahead.
Good. Okay. Actually, I'm glad that you spoke first. I'm excited to hear what you're doing.
Thank you so much.
I'm okay. All right. Thank you.
Can we put the lights on now that we
Can
don't
you
have
hear me?
Yeah, we can put the lights on.
I can hear it echoing. Okay. Anyway.
Go ahead.
All right. I am an immigrant. I understand that immigrants have a role. Immigrants teach wonderful, wonderful things. I was the first. On the other side, I drove in busing, and I'd learned. The therapist said, "Well, if you want to learn about this culture, go learn." So I learned from Black women, to the history of Black women. I also joined I also drove the BU shuttle bus. And the Black Gospel Choir was on the bus, and I said, "My God, where'd you get that music?" My father used to play drums in the basement in Canada, and some of that music from the Dixieland. But anyway, I went to their practices. I was invited. I was the first white person to join them because I was at so many practices. One day somebody said, "When are you coming?" And I said, "I don't know, who, me?" Anyway, but the point is, after time, more and more people came, more white people, more immigrants. After a while, the exact same choir with the exact same music, almost, right, But it was different. It's immigrants doing it. They imitate. I imitate. We all imitate African American culture. And you watch The Voice. People can do it. I need to say this, but well, okay. The thing that's confusing, the world doesn't know the difference between an immigrant Black American and an African American Black American.
Right.
Okay, so I love what you're doing, as long as, to me, I love immigrants and they need to keep identifying themselves as immigrants instead of saying, like Kamala did in the beginning, that she was a usual Black woman. I recognize her mannerisms. I grew up in Montreal, the same place that she went to school. I recognize, those are all my mannerisms, the way she acted.
Right.
You know, that was
What's the
not.
question? I just want to get your question.
It was kind of a statement. It's just about the erasure. Oh, sorry. Thank you. But anyway, the erasure happens, when people imitate, and there's nothing wrong with it. It's just that we have to watch out, because by now, all the institutions use white mechanisms to hire people to whatever. Look at the movies industry, and with Cynthia Erivo playing Aretha Franklin. What? How did that happen? How did that even happen? It just should never have happened. And it should never have happened, Daniel Leo and all the rest of these people playing Martin Luther King. Why? This is insane.
Okay,
there you go.
No problem. I'll respond to this by saying that, okay, I get what you're saying, and you're completely right. And African Americans do have a specific special place in this place. But I just want to say, so how would I separate a Jew from another white person?
Ask them a little more. The Irish are
Okay,
nothing
so
like
that's the same thing we
British
do for
crowd.
African Americans.
Well, I know, but how can we say it more publicly when it's taboo to mention anything?
I don't know. Well, in our community, it's not taboo.
I know we're not in your community, but it sure is in the suburbs. They aren't talking about anything.
Well, there's not much Black anything going on in the suburbs.
Well, okay, I don't really. It sounds like.
Can I just have this lady speak, because she...
Right,
Exactly.
right.
Thank you.
And,
Thank you.
and
I knew what the
also,
point is.
okay.
I was trying to praise you and say thank you for what
No,
you're doing.
I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. That's more of the culture, changing their habits. It has nothing to do with Blacks. So
Right. This is not even a Black issue. This is all about
Yeah.
culture. This is not about race at all.
Right.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to, I didn't hear any talk about the projects, Mission Hill, Jamaica Plain, Orchard Park. I didn't hear a lot about that, and we were like in fishbowls. I grew up in Mission Hill, and we were surrounded by all the hospitals, Wentworth, and we're surrounded by everything, especially in Mission Hill.
My sister, I want to apologize for not mentioning them, but I kind of because I had a little bit of time, but I showed that area and all those. That was the area that those places were. So I apologize for that, but go ahead. Sorry.
So I guess I just wanted to put that out there, but I did want to know how I can reach you, and I'm not going to hold up.
Oh, no, we have
But
information
I want-
there. No problem. We'll get you, and she can take Asia's with me, so we'll get that information for you.
Yeah, I definitely wanted to include, there needs to be some sort of segment or something about the project. There's families.
Right.
There, you can go, like, we have a Mission Hill reunion every year, and there's families. If someone dies, we're there, and that's where we need to come together.
No, it's very important.
Yeah.
I've learned so much about doing the research of these communities. I learned that we used to send, in this very community, you would send young women to go and pick up the children while the older women are working, and then they are taking care of the children, and they're cooking for the whole block. Is that not true?
Something like
You know what I'm saying? Like, this is, well, maybe not the block, but yeah. What I'm just saying is, look, I romanticize our history. I'm not scared to do it.
I wanted to end with us being in these projects.
Yes, ma'am.
Trespassings
Yes.
were passed out.
Right.
And that's how a lot of our men went to jail. They were arrested. Charles Stewart didn't just deal with the Stewart family. He dealt with that whole community.
Right. Right.
That's all I want to say.
All those are very good.
Now, one of the things that I found, and I can't really prove it because there's no evidence, but I do know that rap founded 50 years, and I believe it's a lot because of Connolly's and all those locations. There was no place for our young people to practice music. So they sat on the corner and they listened to their artifacts and their, the old records, and they created rap. So, and that's 50 years, and that happened right after the urban renewal. And I just didn't understand. The reason why I asked that question is because I never understood how a people that basically were the best musicians God has ever created, and we instruments is our thing. So why would we create a music without using instruments unless we just didn't have access to them? So I think that the projects is a very important thing to study, and the trauma of being in open, wide community and spaces with connections and family and a whole infrastructure of support, and to go from that to boxes created to house people, and keep them out of the way. So I completely agree with you, and I think that I will talk to you, because I do a documentary. I think there's some material there. Yes,
We
ma'am.
have Ms. Grace.
My sister.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for your presentation. And
No, thank you.
Thank you for highlighting the projects.
Oh, yes, please.
That were hubs for Black Americans, and those strong relationships from Orchard Park, Columbia Point,
Yes.
Mission Hill.
Yes.
And the black family is about families.
Right.
That's what it's about. The Jones family. Our culture is all about families.
Yes.
You mess with one, you're
Mess
gonna
with
have
us
to
all.
mess with that whole family.
Right.
Exactly.
So that's the way we came up.
Right.
Now, the Black community here in Boston, we were a thriving Black community.
Right. Thriving.
We had summer things for the teenagers.
Right.
At all the parks.
Yep.
That was attended
Horse
over
riding.
500, 600 Black youth.
Right.
We had everything we needed in our community. And another thing that's failed to mention is the Black church, the role the Black church has
No,
played.
yes, go ahead.
Okay, the role that
Reach on.
the long-time Black institutions, Prince Hall,
Right.
the oldest Black institution in America, the Carver Den, the George Washington Carver Den.
Oh, yes, sir.
Okay, the
Yes, ma'am.
Parthenia Temple,
Uh-oh.
Elks Home on Charlotte Ave.
Uh-oh. 12th Street
Okay.
Baptist.
Yes. So we have a lot of
A lot of good history.
So
Black
can I add something at this
institutions.
point? So I
So-
hate to really shut people
Yeah.
down, but like I said, I actually extended it to 8:30.
No problem.
We got it at
All right.
6:30.
Yeah.
What I'm gonna suggest is all these ideas that you guys have, we've been begging people to put in the email and send it
Right.
to the Reparations Task Force.
Right.
So that email address is reparations@boston.gov. Put in your ideas as to what you think should be a part of reparations. Send it to the task force. It goes to Khalid, it's on the record, and it's what we get to talk about. I just want to make one or two statements on behalf of our chair, Mr. Fisa. He's not here. I just want to say that I listened to the community. One of the things that they asked was that we have a consistent calendar throughout the year. We have that calendar. Khalid is our project manager. He can only upload 1 month in advance at a time. So you will not see a whole calendar for the whole year. You will see the next month's event. The next month's event is May 12th. We're gonna do the same thing, showcase the project, community partnerships like we did tonight. And then after that, we'll go back to talking about the actual research consultants in June. So next month, I'm really expecting this room to be full because community keeps telling me, Antonia, they're not including me, they're not including me. I have these conversations. These ladies have worked very hard with me, with colleagues to make this happen. And this is the community input. The projects, the people who came here tonight are the community. That's what they said. And if you want something different, put it in writing, but at least support them. Because they are the ones who answered to the contracts and to the grants, and they did the projects and they did the work. So if you want something else to be known or to be spoken about, send an email, but also support them. So this is a part of community engagement. And so the city wants to see actually what the community had to say, and so you have to respect each person's input, their projects, and the work that they put in to be here today. So we're gonna do this again May
Thank you.
12th.
So
okay?
I just want to say,
Thank you.
even though they may not be posting it, it's going to be generally the second Monday of each month. So we're trying to put it at the same time so that you have an advance notice and you generally know. So October is the 1 month where that won't be true. Okay, good, great. These dates are up. So please, now we have it so that you can plan in advance. I know getting something at the last minute doesn't work. But this way, now you'll know in advance. The only one is October 14th. That is not going to be the date. We're going to have to change it because that is Indigenous Peoples Day. So we have to figure out if it's up or down.
No, it's already changed.
Oh, that's the one that's already changed? Okay, so the 8th. So it's not the second Tuesday.
It is the 14th. It is the 14th?
It's the 14th.
It's the 14th. He already changed it.
Okay.
So I want to thank everybody again for coming out tonight. I really appreciate everybody coming here. Thank you for supporting the other people that did the projects in the community. And please remember to send your emails and then come again on May 12th. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful evening, everybody.